The galaxy had known war for as long as anyone could remember. Star systems burned, fleets clashed, and species rose and fell like waves against the shore. For generations, peace was nothing more than a fragile dream, whispered by scholars and diplomats while generals prepared for the next conflict. And now, at last, a chance for something different had arrived. The Galactic Coalition had called a summit, a meeting unlike any before. Delegates from hundreds of civilizations gathered on the neutral station of Serenity Prime, a massive structure orbiting a quiet blue star. Its halls were filled with voices in thousands of languages, all trying to be heard above the hum of machinery and the distant whirring of ships docking at the station. Among the delegates were representatives of species that had never before spoken to one another. Some had scales that glimmered like jewels, others had skin that changed color with their mood. Wings, tentacles, energy fields, every form of life in the galaxy had come, and each one believed their cause was just. Humans, however, were different. They arrived not with grand displays or intimidating fleets, but with calm determination. Their ships were modest in size but advanced in design, blending speed with protection. Human ambassadors wore simple uniforms, unadorned by medals or glowing insignias. Yet even in their simplicity, there was an unmistakable confidence in the way they moved and spoke. Inside the largest conference hall, the air buzzed with anticipation. Holographic displays projected maps of contested territories, timelines of conflicts, and projections of resource availability. Delegates spoke in formal tones, their voices amplified by translation devices so that everyone could understand. The humans listened quietly. Ambassador Alara Kane, the lead human representative, observed every detail. She noticed the tension in the Zinthari delegates as they debated the ownership of the Orith Nebula. She noted the subtle glares exchanged between the Mirocs and the Sendari, each blaming the other for decades of skirmishes. She understood the rules of diplomacy, but she also understood the fragility of trust. The first few days were polite but tense. Proposals were made, counter-proposals followed, and motions were debated for hours. The humans spoke rarely, choosing their moments with precision. When they did intervene, their words were measured but impactful, cutting through layers of rhetoric with simple truths. Peace cannot be built on fear, Ambassador Kane said during one session, her voice calm yet firm. It must be built on understanding and respect. Threats and ultimatums only delay the inevitable. Some delegates nodded, others scowled, but all listened. The humans had a way of speaking that made others pause, not because they demanded attention, but because they made others think. Behind the scenes, human strategists worked quietly. They analyzed fleet movements, studied economic patterns, and prepared contingency plans. They did not plan for war, they hoped to prevent it, but they were aware of the galaxy's nature. In a place where power often spoke louder than words, caution was survival. Meanwhile, rumors began to circulate about the humans. In the corridors of Serenity Prime, delegates whispered stories of human resilience. They spoke of worlds humans had defended against overwhelming odds, of battles fought with courage and cleverness rather than brute force. Some claimed humans could turn the tide of a war with ideas rather than armies. Others said humans were reckless, unpredictable, and dangerous, but undeniably clever. The galaxy had always underestimated humans. Many assumed their small fleets and simple diplomacy meant weakness. But humans had survived where others had failed, thrived in environments that seemed impossible, and adapted to challenges faster than almost any other species. That adaptability was a kind of strength that no one could measure until it was too late. During the 5th day of the talks, a new challenge arose. The Draxer, a species known for their massive warships and aggressive nature, proposed a new measure, a mandatory weapon control treaty. They wanted to limit the development of certain technologies that they claimed could destabilize the galaxy. The humans listened carefully. Ambassador Kane spoke only once, calmly presenting the human position. "Technology is a tool," she said. "Its purpose depends on who wields it and why. Limiting progress does not guarantee safety. Understanding and responsibility do. We will not surrender our ability to protect ourselves or others in the pursuit of a false sense of security." The room fell silent. The Draxxer delegates' growl of frustration echoed in the hall, but other delegates murmured in approval. Humans did not threaten, they reasoned. And yet, even without raising their voice, they had made their stance clear. Humanity valued peace, but not at the cost of being defenseless. That night, the humans' private quarters were a hub of quiet discussion. Ambassador Kane and her team reviewed every move of the past days. "They think we are passive observers," said Lieutenant Ryan Holt, the human security advisor. "They don't realize we are watching, learning, and planning. That gives us an advantage." Kane nodded. "Our goal is peace, yes, but peace must be earned, not begged for. If they underestimate us, it is their mistake, not ours." Outside, the station glittered against the backdrop of space. Ships from hundreds of species drifted in orbit, some docking, others on patrol. The galaxy seemed calm, but calm was always temporary. Every species carried its own ambitions, its own fears. In such a place, a single spark could ignite conflict. By the 8th day, subtle tensions began to surface. Minor incidents occurred in docking bays, small disputes over supplies, and disagreements over procedural rules. Delegates accused each other of breaking agreements, while human observers recorded everything carefully, noting patterns, weaknesses, and opportunities. Despite these challenges, the humans remained composed. They did not intervene unnecessarily, but they made their presence felt. A simple question from Ambassador Kane could reveal hidden motives. A careful observation from Lieutenant Holt could predict the next move of a rival species. Humans had a way of turning observation into influence without overt power. One evening, as Kane reviewed reports in her quarters, a message arrived. It was from a remote colony near the edge of the galaxy, one that humans had long protected. The colony reported strange activity, unusual energy readings, small unidentified ships, and signs of a potential threat. Kane's eyes narrowed. This was the first real test. She gathered her team. "We are here to negotiate peace," she said, "but we must also protect our own. We cannot be blind to danger, nor can we trust that others will act responsibly. We prepare, but we do not provoke. We observe, but we act if necessary." The team nodded. In the galaxy, preparation was survival, observation was power, and humans had learned long ago that caution and courage could coexist. As the summit approached its final days, whispers about humans grew louder. Delegates from distant worlds speculated about what humans would do if provoked. Would they remain passive observers, or would they respond in ways that no one expected? For humans, the answer was simple. They would act with reason, but they would not tolerate betrayal. They sought peace, yes, but they also understood that peace demanded vigilance. The final day of Part 1 saw the coalition debating a major agreement, the establishment of a neutral zone in a contested sector, a buffer meant to prevent skirmishes between rival factions. Humans listened as arguments flew back and forth, each species pushing its agenda. Ambassador Kane finally spoke, not with anger but with authority. "Neutral zones can work," she said, "if all parties respect them. But they are only as strong as the commitment of those who enforce them. Humans will respect the zone, and we expect others to do the same. Peace is not a gift, it is a responsibility." Her words were met with silence, then hesitant agreement. For now, the humans had shown their hand without revealing too much. They had made it clear that they would not be bullied, yet they had not escalated conflict. They were observers, but not powerless ones. As the delegates left the conference hall for the night, a sense of cautious optimism lingered. Perhaps peace was possible if fragile. Perhaps trust could grow if carefully nurtured. Yet beneath the surface, a question remained. How long could the galaxy resist the unpredictable, unstoppable force that humans had always been? And somewhere deep in the corridors of Serenity Prime, humans quietly prepared for the possibility that the galaxy might soon discover just how wrong it had been to underestimate them. The peaceful facade of Serenity Prime began to crack the moment humans received the first alarming reports from their distant colonies. Out near the edge of the galaxy, where stars were sparse and trade lanes dangerous, human worlds were experiencing small but deliberate attacks. Ships vanished without a trace. Energy fields flickered and collapsed. Communications were jammed. At first, the human leadership tried to remain calm. Ambassador Alara Kane convened a private meeting with her team. "We did not come here to start a war," she said, pacing the sleek command room. "We came to prevent one, but peace requires respect, and respect has been tested." Lieutenant Ryan Holt leaned forward, a frown creasing his forehead. "The Draxer were behind the attacks," he said. "They want to see if we'll respond, if we can be intimidated. It's a test." Kane nodded. "Then we will show them what humans are capable of, but strategically. We will not be rash. Observation first, action when necessary." For days, humans watched the attacks escalate. The Draxer forces moved stealthily, striking human supply lines and remote outposts with precision. Other delegates at the summit pretended to ignore the situation, but humans noticed the subtle glances, the whispers in the corridors, the way alien factions weighed whether to intervene or to let humans take the risk. Finally, the decision was made. Humanity would abandon the peace talks, not in anger, but in necessity. They would no longer sit at a table where others violated the principles of diplomacy while hiding behind polite smiles. Humanity would act to protect itself and the galaxy's fragile balance. The announcement shook Serenity Prime. Ambassador Kane addressed the coalition. "We will no longer participate in these talks," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Peace is important, but we cannot negotiate under threat. Human worlds are under attack, and humanity will respond. Those who seek to test us will find that patience has limits." Gasps and murmurs echoed through the hall. Some delegates frowned, others exchanged worried looks. Humans had been seen as observers, as cautious diplomats. Now they revealed the depth of their resolve. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the human fleets mobilized. Ships moved with silent efficiency, warships and scouting vessels combining speed, stealth, and precision. Unlike other species, humans did not rely solely on massive fleets or overwhelming force. They relied on strategy, adaptability, and unexpected tactics. The first strike came not at the heart of Draxer territory, but at the edges, the locations where Draxer forces had attacked human colonies. These were surgical operations, swift, targeted, and precise. Entire supply convoys disappeared without a trace. Communication hubs went offline, cutting the aggressors' ability to coordinate. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Humans, who had been underestimated, were proving that restraint did not equal weakness. Every move they made was deliberate, every strike calculated, and every action a message. Humans do not negotiate under threat, they act. Back at Serenity Prime, alien delegates debated furiously. "They should not have abandoned the talks," said a Sendari representative, her wings fluttering nervously. "They are destabilizing everything." A Zinthari diplomat leaned forward, his scales dark with worry. "No, they are showing the consequences of aggression. The Draxer provoked them. Humanity is acting in defense, and they are unmatched in cleverness and adaptability. We should take note." For the first time, the coalition understood that humans were unlike any other species. They were neither the largest nor the most technologically advanced, but their ingenuity, courage, and unpredictability made them formidable. Human scientists and engineers worked around the clock. They deployed drones that could infiltrate enemy systems, automated defenses that adapted to attacks, and advanced sensors that predicted movements before they occurred. Humans had long been survivors, thriving in environments others deemed impossible. Now that survival instinct became a weapon, calculated, intelligent, and unstoppable. Colonies that had feared annihilation began to see a different side of humanity. Civilians worked alongside defense forces, contributing knowledge, skills, and courage. Entire populations adapted quickly, reinforcing the idea that humans were not passive victims but active participants in their survival. The Draxer, initially confident that humans would respond slowly or with caution, found themselves caught off guard. Every attempt to probe human defenses was met with countermeasures that were swift, precise, and effective. Fleets sent to strike human colonies were intercepted by ships that seemed to anticipate every move. Supply lines collapsed. Communications were disrupted. Morale faltered. The galaxy began to realize that human strength was not just in their fleets. It was in their minds, their adaptability, and their relentless resolve. Where other species relied on predictable patterns, humans improvised, adapted, and struck with unexpected precision. At the same time, Ambassador Kane worked tirelessly to maintain the moral high ground. She issued statements to the coalition, explaining that humanity's goal was not conquest but defense. "We act to protect our worlds and our people," she said. "We do not seek war, but we will not allow aggression to go unanswered. Those who underestimate humanity will learn that our resolve is as strong as our ingenuity." Other species began to take notice. Fleets that had once dismissed human strategy now monitored every move. Delegates who had mocked the humans' calm diplomacy now whispered about their capability and courage. Even the Draxer, humbled by the precision of human strikes, realized they had misjudged the species entirely. The tipping point came when humans executed a series of operations that cut off key Draxer supply routes and disabled their orbital defenses. Entire sectors, previously considered secure, were suddenly vulnerable. The Draxer leadership convened in panic, realizing that humans could not be predicted, outmaneuvered, or intimidated. Across the coalition, a new respect for humanity emerged, tempered by caution. Humans had shown that their strength lay not only in force, but in thought, planning, and adaptability. They were the ultimate survivors, and their actions were a warning. Aggression against humans would not be tolerated. Even as human forces demonstrated their power, they continued to act with calculated restraint. Civilian populations were protected, collateral damage minimized, and retaliatory strikes targeted only those directly responsible. This balance of power and morality further distinguished humans from other species. By the 10th week of the conflict, the Draxer were forced into negotiations, not peace talks, but surrender discussions. They realized that continued aggression would only lead to further losses. Ambassador Kane, while commanding human fleets, also engaged in these discussions, demonstrating that humans could fight as fiercely as they could reason. Other species began to see a new pattern. Humans did not seek domination, but they did demand respect. They did not act recklessly, but they did not tolerate injustice. They were clever, adaptable, and courageous, a combination that made them uniquely capable of surviving in a galaxy where chaos often reigned. Reports began to circulate throughout the galaxy. Humans had defended their colonies, neutralized aggressors, and preserved the moral high ground. Tales of human ingenuity spread like wildfire, inspiring allies and causing potential aggressors to think twice. Where other species relied on raw power, humans relied on strategy, innovation, and determination. Back on Serenity Prime, alien delegates watched the unfolding events with growing unease. The humans' actions had rewritten expectations. They had abandoned diplomacy, yes, but in doing so, they revealed the depth of their resolve and the brilliance of their tactics. Ambassador Kane addressed her team late one night, overlooking the glittering stars outside the station. "They believed we would sit quietly," she said. "They thought patience meant weakness. They will remember this lesson for a long time. Humanity does not bow to threats. We respond and we endure. And when the galaxy tests us, we will act, not out of anger but out of necessity." Her words resonated with her team. They had acted decisively, protected their worlds, and shown the galaxy that humans could not be underestimated. Every plan executed, every strike calculated, every defense coordinated. It all proved one thing. Humans were exceptional not because they sought war, but because they survived, adapted, and persevered in ways no other species could. As the conflict subsided, at least temporarily, humans did not celebrate. They returned to observing the coalition, quietly monitoring potential threats. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Humanity could be reasoned with, respected, and admired, but it could not be controlled, intimidated, or dismissed. And in that quiet observation, the humans prepared for the future. They knew the galaxy would test them again. But one thing was certain: those who underestimated humanity would always pay the price. By abandoning diplomacy, humans had not abandoned reason. They had revealed their strength, their courage, and their unique ability to survive in a galaxy that often underestimated them. And the galaxy would never forget it. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Humanity, a species once underestimated, had abandoned diplomacy in response to aggression and demonstrated a combination of strategy, courage, and ingenuity that few could match. Now, the shockwaves of their actions spread across star systems. What had begun as a fragile summit on Serenity Prime had become a turning point for the entire galaxy. Alien leaders convened in emergency sessions. Holographic maps of the galaxy lit the room, dotted with red and blue markers representing conflict zones and human-controlled sectors. Every species scrambled to reassess alliances, trade routes, and military strategies. For decades, many civilizations had assumed that humans could be negotiated with, bullied, or ignored. Now those assumptions had been shattered. "Humanity is not just a threat," said a Zinthari admiral, her scales dark with worry. "They are exceptional. They adapt, they anticipate, and they act. We underestimated them for too long." A Mirox representative nodded grimly. "We may have to revise all of our treaties. Any aggression, any provocation, humans will respond. Their response is unlike anything we've seen. It is precise, efficient, and almost creative." Indeed, across multiple star systems, humans continued their careful operations. They did not seek to conquer, they sought to stabilize and protect. Formerly attacked colonies were restored, supply lines reestablished, and communication networks rebuilt. Humans showed that strength could coexist with compassion. Where other species relied on intimidation, humans relied on understanding, foresight, and adaptability. Back on Serenity Prime, Ambassador Alara Kane observed the reactions of the other delegates with a quiet satisfaction. She had always known that humans were underestimated, but seeing the galaxy awaken to their capabilities was a moment of validation. Yet Kane also knew that power carried responsibility. Humanity had acted decisively, but they had not acted recklessly. That balance, she understood, was what set humans apart. Lieutenant Ryan Holt, reviewing intelligence reports, spoke quietly to her. "Every species that underestimated us is now reconsidering their position. Some may even seek our cooperation instead of confrontation, but we must remain vigilant. The galaxy is not suddenly safe. They've only learned that humans are not to be tested." Kane nodded. "Exactly. This is a turning point, yes, but vigilance is eternal. We cannot assume that peace will last simply because others respect our strength. It must be maintained with wisdom and strategy. Meanwhile, the Draxer leadership, humbled and wary, began reaching out to the humans. Initially, their communication was cautious, almost apologetic. They proposed dialogue, offering to renegotiate trade agreements, cease hostilities, and even provide intelligence to prevent further misunderstandings. The humans responded, not with triumph or vengeance, but with calculated openness. They made it clear that reconciliation was possible, but only on terms that respected both morality and security. Humanity had demonstrated strength. Now they would demonstrate fairness. Across the galaxy, word spread of humanity's decisive actions. Stories of human ingenuity, courage, and ethical precision inspired other civilizations. Some species, previously obsessed with power, began to reconsider their approaches. Diplomats from the Sindari and Zinthari worked to strengthen alliances, not for domination but to ensure stability. For humans, the goal was never to dominate but to lead by example. Cain addressed the coalition once more, this time with a tone of resolve and hope. "The galaxy is vast, filled with diversity and potential," she said. "Conflict is not inevitable, but vigilance is. Humanity will act to protect life and freedom. We do not seek war, but we do not fear it. And when we act, it will be with wisdom, justice, and precision." Humans had proven that survival was not merely a matter of force. They had shown that creativity, adaptability, and moral courage could shift the balance of power in a galaxy that had long underestimated them. The lesson was clear. Humans did not need to dominate through fear. They commanded respect through action and principle. In human-controlled sectors, colonies began to thrive as never before. Trade networks reopened, scientific exchanges flourished, and defensive technology advanced rapidly. Human engineers shared their designs selectively with allied species, demonstrating innovation without arrogance. Humanity's reputation as both a protector and a strategist solidified. Even in regions far from the immediate conflict, humans' influence was felt. Communication systems relayed their successes, and news of their decisive actions inspired hope and caution alike. Species that had once considered themselves dominant began to plan differently, understanding that any encounter with humans required strategy, respect, and foresight. The Draxer, humbled by their losses, became cautious partners rather than reckless aggressors. They worked alongside human advisors to establish neutral zones, repair trade corridors, and create early warning systems. The galaxy slowly learned that aggression against humans was not merely futile, it was dangerous. Despite their victories, humans did not celebrate excessively. Ambassador Cain reminded her team that vigilance must continue. "We have shown our capabilities," she said, standing before her advisors on the bridge of the flagship Endurance. "But the galaxy is not static. Challenges will arise. Our responsibility is to protect, to act wisely, and to prepare. Respect is earned, and it is maintained through integrity and readiness." Holt looked at her, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "We've done what few believed possible." The galaxy now sees humans as a force, not just in warfare but in leadership and strategy. Cain smiled faintly. "Yes, but remember, strength without responsibility is dangerous. We must always lead by example, not just by power. That is what will define humanity for generations to come." The coalition, observing human actions, began to formally revise their treaties. Policies were changed, not out of fear, but out of respect for human ingenuity and courage. Neutral zones were reinforced, and the rights of human colonies were acknowledged universally. Humanity's moral authority was recognized as much as their strategic capability. Other species also began to emulate aspects of human strategy. Training programs, defensive tactics, and problem-solving methodologies were studied and adopted. Humans had set a standard, not through domination, but through intelligence, adaptability, and ethical action. Back in the quiet corridors of Serenity Prime, Kane reflected on the journey that had begun weeks earlier. The fragile peace talks, once a symbol of hope, had transformed into a demonstration of human resilience and principle. Diplomacy alone had not been enough. Action grounded in morality and strategy had been required. Human fleets returned to routine patrols, ready for any future threats. Colonies continued to develop, thriving under careful guidance and protection. Scientists pushed the boundaries of exploration and technology, always aware that innovation was as vital to survival as strength. The galaxy had changed. Humans were no longer a species to be underestimated, negotiated with lightly, or dismissed. Their combination of courage, intelligence, adaptability, and ethical precision had redefined expectations across the stars. In the weeks that followed, other species approached humans not with suspicion, but with cooperation. Trade agreements, research partnerships, and strategic alliances were offered. Diplomats and leaders sought guidance, hoping to understand the principles that had allowed humanity to succeed where others faltered. Yet humans remained measured. They accepted collaboration selectively, always weighing long-term consequences and moral responsibility. Humanity's goal was not to dominate the galaxy, but to ensure that the galaxy could function with stability, justice, and foresight. Stories of human courage spread across star systems. Children on distant worlds learned about the humans who had defended their colonies with ingenuity rather than brute force. Scholars wrote of the species whose adaptability and moral clarity had reshaped interstellar politics. Even former aggressors admitted their mistakes, humbled by the skill and wisdom of humanity. Through it all, Kane and her team maintained the guiding principle: strength must be paired with responsibility. Human actions had proven that a species could be formidable without cruelty, decisive without recklessness, and courageous without arrogance. The galaxy now knew a simple truth: humanity was exceptional, not because of sheer power, but because humans had redefined what it meant to survive, to protect, and to lead. Those who underestimated humanity had learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes, the most dangerous force in the galaxy was not the largest fleet or the deadliest weapon, but the species that could combine intelligence, courage, and moral clarity. As the stars twinkled across the vast expanse of space, humanity stood ready. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as protectors, innovators, and leaders who had earned the respect of the galaxy through action and principle. The lesson was clear and enduring. Test humanity, and the galaxy itself would witness the consequences. And in that quiet vigilance, the humans prepared for the future. They knew that the galaxy would continue to challenge them, but they were ready, as they always had been. Humanity had proven its worth, and the galaxy would never again doubt it. Humans abandon peace talks. The galaxy soon realizes its mistake.